All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation and Knicks Nation on this Friday afternoon. Another NBA Report, KnicksFanTV simulcast. CB the Fanchise in the building. Joining me on today's show, returning to the show, friend of the program. You can catch him on New York Post Sports Podcasts and Properties. He's the host of New York Got Game, play-by-play analyst, basketball analyst, sports analyst. He wears many hats, man. Our guy Dexter Henry is in the building. Like, share, and subscribe, and let's get into it. A lot to talk about. We're going to talk about this Eastern Conference semifinals matchup still going on between the Cavaliers and the Pistons, and which one will be the tougher matchup for the New York Knicks. Once again, as we get closer to the NBA all season, the Giannis rumors are percolating, and we'll talk about where would be his best destination for a potential trade, plus Adam Silver sheds a bit more light on the 3-2-1 anti-tanking policy, so we will react to that as well. As I said, like, share, subscribe. Salute to the replay gang. Let's get into it. All right, Dex, how we feeling, man?
You and I were just talking about this a little bit before we started. A little bit rested because, we got a little bit break with the Knicks, but a little anxious because we don't know who they're going to play, when they're going to play. And, both of us, we're trying to figure all that out. I know the fans want to get the games going, but kind of low-key hoping for two game sevens on Sunday.
A little more days off would be.
Take a little more rest.
A little more rest, man. How's the Achilles, man? I didn't get a chance to.
Thanks for asking. You know what's funny? Yesterday, for the first time, I went and just took a nice walk. Like I had something to do at Erin, and I walked. So I got off crutches this week. That's the big thing.
Good.
I'm off crutches. And so I was like, okay, my doctor was saying to be a little bit more active, my physical therapist too, and walk. So I walked for a little bit, and it just felt good to just walk again.
Yeah, so in a boot.
Yeah, I'm in a boot. Yeah,
okay.
Walking in the boot, so I'm still in the boot. But just like I was able, we take for granted our mobility sometimes, and to be able to just walk and just, I was a little fatigued at the end of it because I hadn't walked that much in quite some time, but it's a blessing, man. So getting stronger, getting better. Yesterday was 7 weeks in surgery.
Wow. Time flies
on schedule
soon.
to be out of the boot in July. So yeah, everything's going good.
That's good. Because you're watching your content, you would never know. So that's why I'm like, I can't wipe your.
I appreciate you asking, brother.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Because you're watching this stuff, you would never know that you were recovering from that. But that's glad to hear that you're making progress. So let's kick it to tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Pistons and the Cavs in Cleveland. Cleveland with that impressive overtime victory over the Pistons and one win away from a potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup against the Knicks. And what are you thinking about just in terms of this matchup? And then we'll talk about the Knicks matchup with both teams.
So this matchup's been so interesting for me, CP. And the other night was so interesting in Game 5 because you're thinking Detroit looked like they had all the momentum. They're up 9 with just under 3 minutes to go. It looks like this game is done. But you saw the reasons people have had questions about that team. Who's going to score except for Cade? When they put 2 on the ball with Cade's hands on the ball, that offense struggled and stalled. And you got to give Cleveland all the credit. They made the shots down the stretch. They won a road game, the first road win of the playoffs. Now they have a chance to close it out at home. Do I trust them to close it out at home? Kind of don't.
Yeah.
I kind of don't. I can see Detroit winning tonight. I can see this being a very ugly game. Here's the other factor. Is James Harden going to show up in a Game 6? And then Evan Mobley, who I don't want to kill, who was actually fantastic in Game 5. He was great in the way that they needed him to step up because he has been sometimes invisible.
Yeah.
And the bigs haven't been that great in the series. Jalen Duren on the other side hasn't been that great.
Bench.
But if Evan Mobley plays like the way he played on the other night in Game 5, and Max Strus is hitting the shots the way he was, because Max Strus was big for them, then I think Cleveland can win this at home, but I don't know why my gut's telling me Detroit's going to win this tonight and push this to 7. I don't know why. I just have a feeling. I think it'll be ugly. They're going to make the game ugly. They're going to be desperate. We saw them do this. Now, look, is Cleveland going to be Orlando? Are they going to have the Orlando choke job?
No.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
But I see this game being really ugly, and I think, but it could go either way. I'm going to lean Detroit here tonight, but maybe part of me is selfishly rooting for a couple more days off.
Yeah.
I want that Game 7, so that could be it too.
I'm with you in watching that game unfold in Game 5, it was it was, first off, the beginning of that fourth quarter was typical Detroit. I was literally doing a podcast where these guys were asking me about Detroit and why they're dangerous. I said, well, if you're not careful, if you're throwing the ball away, they'll easily go on a 10-0 run and turn that defense into offense. And as I'm telling them that, they're literally going on a 10-0 run to get back into the game on the Cavaliers. And so that's why they can be so dangerous, because you can't be sloppy with the ball. They are athletic. They can be dogs, and they will score quickly. That is kind of their makeup for not having a true secondary scorer and superstars, that their defense can get it done and collect those points for you. But just as you said, watching Cleveland, when that game got into overtime, I said, well, this is advantage Cleveland, because what you saw is that their role players were complimenting their stars way better than Detroit. And that was why they were able to win the 2 on the ball advantages, because I'm like, all right, you funneling into Karis LeVert, we'll take that. We'll even take a Tobias jumper, even though, Tobias at times has come through for them, especially with no Duncan Robinson as a 3-point threat. Jenkins, he's very spotty in terms of his shooting. He could be on fire one night. He could be bricky, and his decision-making when it comes to shot selection could be a little off. He's a young player. So that went right into Cleveland's hands. I'm with you. I thought Mobley was very impressive in that game, and I thought Strus was even more impressive on that game. I mean, he hits the 3, then comes back, picks Cade's pockets, feeds it to Donovan Mitchell for a scoop layup. I thought Max Strus with the 20 points, he was brilliant in that game to complement Harden's 30-plus and then Mitchell as well. So I'm with you tonight. I think it can go either way, but it's going to take a Cade classic. I'm not going home. I'm playing most of this game. It's going to take a Cade, I think, northwards of 35 points for Detroit to get it done.
I don't disagree with that. I had to look up the stat while you were talking, because I remember on Wednesday night, I remember just looking at that game, CP, and being like, man, if you're Detroit, you really got to be disappointed about this loss, because you talked about how they were able to change the game, get the turnovers, which is sort of their I forgot the exact term you used, but it's a really good thing for them because they don't have that secondary shot creator, right? They got the Cavs 16 turnovers. Detroit only turned the ball over 10 times, and they lost that game, and you got to be really, really disappointed on that. Now, when you look at some other things in this game too, Cleveland out-rebounded them 44-40, so they got a little bit of an edge on the glass. But when you're +6 in the turnover battle, and that's been your thing, getting the points off of turnovers, you still lose that game, their offense went so cold down the stretch.
Yeah.
And to give Cleveland credit, late in the fourth quarter, and overtime, they took care of the ball. And then Detroit had some inexcusable turnovers.
Yeah.
Overtime. You got one steal where Cade got ripped by Max Strus off the inbounds. They can't have those kind of mistakes. That's the problem with Detroit. Their offense is so based on one player that late in games, they can't afford to have the mistakes. They're untimely mistakes. It's really going to cost them.
Yeah.
So that's something to watch tonight. I do agree with you. It's going to take a big performance from Cade. It's going to take a big performance from Cade. Or somebody else got to step up. Is it a Tobias Harris? Is it Jalen Duren finally showing up? Is it Dennis Jenkins showing up? But somebody else has got to help Cade. But I think he's going to need at least, you said 35?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a good number if they're going to win.
100%. Now, as it relates to the New York Knicks are chilling. They are at home. They are practicing, implementing new sets. News just came out. OG Anunoby, full participant in practice today. And so the squad, the Orange and Blue Boys, look like they're going to be ready to go. Who do you think, man? Tougher matchup, Cleveland or Detroit?
I think Detroit's a tougher matchup. Because of the physicality and what they could bring. Now, I say all that to say, CP, I think we know this as people who cover this team. This is not the same Knicks team. One of the things I said when the Knicks, the first game after the All-Star break, when they got lost to Detroit, I was on a live stream and I said, this is embarrassing. They got punked. They showed no fight back in that. I was really disappointed with the Knicks' effort in that game. This Knicks team has showed physicality. You've heard Nick Nurse bring up that word. You've heard Atlanta bring up that word about the Knicks.
Yeah.
A word that we don't think that would have been used around the Knicks earlier in the season. So I think the Knicks have something from Detroit. But I do think it's the tougher matchup just because, like you said, they can force turnovers. I think the Knicks are the most balanced of the teams, 3 teams left in the Eastern Conference. I think Cleveland's a bit of an easier matchup just because they're not as good defensively. Now, they're good, really good offensively, but I think the way the Knicks are playing defense, they can slow them down. And their backcourt is weak defensively, and I think you can have some problems for James Harden. And also, you get late in the series, I don't know if that man is going to show up. So
yeah,
that's my thing. I'm going to lean Detroit, but I still think where the Knicks have the advantage over Detroit is if the game is tight, I trust Jalen Brunson over everybody else. I also trust the rest of the Knicks team over everybody else because they were the best team in the fourth quarter in net rating during the regular season. We've seen it in the postseason. Now, there hasn't been a lot of close games lately, but when there was game 2 against Philly, it was a little tight. They were able to execute well down the stretch. I think the Knicks will be fine, and I trust their execution. But I do think Detroit, because of their physicality, their length, I do think they are the tougher matchup.
Shout out to Willin 8664 on the KFTV side. $5 super chat says, I have a theory that Cleveland has crappy strip clubs, which is why Harden is more focused. I don't know anything about that. So I went in there one day. I left in and out, overnight trip. I saw the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I couldn't tell you about any other amenities there in Cleveland. Okay, so
I can't tell you either. I've been to Cleveland, but
yeah,
let's just say I wasn't looking for those things.
I wasn't looking for those type of things. But anyway, I'm with you. I think Detroit would be a tougher matchup based on the physicality. And it's, you look at Detroit and you look at their struggles against Orlando and what they're doing against Cleveland. Doesn't mean it's necessarily the case against the Knicks. Every matchup, every series is different in terms of the matchups. And so I look at that Asar matchup on Jalen Brunson. That's a very difficult matchup for Jalen Brunson. How would Detroit attack Karl-Anthony Towns defensively? Would it be Duren or would it be Tobias Harris, where your post-ups might be a little dicier, right? And the one thing that Detroit's not going to do that Philly did, all those cuts and things of that nature, that's going to get a little bit trickier, a little tougher to execute in the half court. They're not Philly that was giving up gashes left, right, and center. That was way disconnected defensively and much slower with a laboring Embiid. Detroit's advantages is that they have versatility across the board defensively. They turn you over. They're very aggressive, and they play playoff style defense. And that will be the toughest defense that the Knicks see at this stage of the playoffs. Where I am confident in the Knicks against Detroit is that, when you look at the standings and you look at the rankings right now, Detroit is the third best defense. The Knicks are the second. So as you said, this is a different Knicks team that they would be facing here that is locked in on the string defensively. And I think the same way that they got the ball out of Maxi's hands and forced him into uncharacteristic turnovers, they'll do the same with Cade and force him into the characteristic turnovers. He's been turnover machine in the playoffs against tough defenses. And so the Knicks will force the other guys in Detroit to beat him in the half court. And that's where, if they are in a tight game, the Knicks may not be able to be that 130.5 offensive rating team, but they'll have enough in terms of turning the ball over and getting those points and also generating more offense in the half court through their depth. I think they will have enough to beat Detroit.
So what's a couple things you said there. One that was interesting to me. You talked about how the Knicks could play offensively and what Detroit's defense could do, one against Jalen Brunson and then against Cat. And so a lot of the questions I think for people have been, well, is the Knicks offense still going to look the same? And we just did a film study in New York Got Game about how the offenses look different through with Cat. I still think you have to have Cat as the hub of the offense out of the pinch post.
Yes.
In those flex actions the way they've been having it. I do think you still have to do that. I agree with you. Those passes, those back cuts you've seen, they can be there. It won't be as easy.
No.
Now, that doesn't mean that the Knicks should abandon that. And I don't think you're saying that either. I don't think they should abandon the CP. What I'm very intrigued to see is with this time off, and I've been calling this Knicks spring mini camp, is what I've been calling it. What wrinkles is Mike Brown going to add to those actions? Because we saw some wrinkles between the Atlanta series and the Philly series. Teams were so worried about OG going backdoor that then it allowed the guards in those actions to start screening for OG and pop out to the three-point line.
Right.
And so are those shots going to be available? Are there other variations that they can have in that flex action? That's what I want to see, because you know this. The playoffs is all about the chess game. What's the counter to the counter, right? And listen, The Knicks also have more time to watch Detroit if they play Detroit and see what they're doing and have more film on them. They've had less film on the Knicks because of the Knicks sweep, which is an advantage for them. And now they don't know the wrinkles that are coming. So that to me is what I'm going to be watching. I think the Knicks are still going to have to make Detroit work.
Yeah.
I still think it's going to be about movement. They cannot get back into old habits of stagnant iso ball. There's going to be time for that. And we still haven't seen a lot of Brunson Cat pick and roll throughout the playoffs, these 10 games.
Right.
I still think you can see that if the games are tight, but I still think they're going to have to make Detroit work, just probably in different ways, because Detroit is more size than Atlanta. Philly had size, but they had guys that needed to drop, and Embiid couldn't move. So completely different in what you're doing. The other point you made that I think is a really good one is about the way the Knicks defense is playing, and particularly Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges did a tremendous job on Tyrese Maxey.
Mm-hmm.
Can he keep the same kind of energy against Cade Cunningham? I think he can. I think he's been fantastic defensively through these playoffs. If he can do that, that's a huge advantage for the Knicks. If the Knicks can get points off of turnovers, we know that's dope for Detroit. But if the Knicks can do that, that's a huge advantage for them in their offense to get easier buckets. So to me, with the Knicks is that if they're playing as well they played on both sides of the ball, CP, I think they beat either of these teams in 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think if they can get a win using Mikal to guard Cade, it'll be by committee. You'll definitely want to close with OG at times. But to me, I would take a chance at putting OG on Harris to cut him off completely, shut him down completely.
Because he's confident.
He plays with physicality, and he has ability to turn around and shoot jumpers over guys like a Hart. I remember Hart had struggled with that matchup a little bit last year. Yep. But I want to put Hart on Asar Thompson and keep him off the glass. Because the kid is just playing, just incredible defense. If you saw that one block late in that game that he had on, was it Evan Mobley? Or Jared Allen.
Behind.
It was, and yeah, the one where he caught Donovan from behind with the strip down.
From behind. Yeah. Woo.
The block that he had, the kid is just jumping through the roof. But I would try to put Hart on him because putting Brunson on him, Brunson has that ability to lose his guy when the shot goes up. And that's when you get Asar crashing the boards. He's crashing for a dunk. He's crashing. You can't give those guys second chance opportunities. You got to demoralize them, end one possession, and get back and go on offensively. So I'd be interested in that matchup. Cleveland-wise, I think the Knicks would be fine in terms of getting their offense off on Cleveland. As you said, putting Harden, putting Mitchell to the test. I think they'd be fine there. I think going double big with Towns and Mitch, they will certainly have a lot more advantages there. I remember that last game of the season, the last matchup of the season between those two teams. Hart, again, just one game, but Hart had a tough go against Allen, and the Knicks couldn't enforce their rebounding advantage. So, but as soon as they put Mitch in there, it was over with. Mitch completely shut Allen out. So I think Knicks going double big will be advantages there. Now, look, you have to respect Cleveland supporting cast. There's way more firepower. They can get hot. The Merrills, the Struces, the Wades, the Schroders off of the bench, right? Like, how do they, you got to deal with the Schroeder factor. So they will have firepower. When Donovan does get going, he can get going. He can be unstoppable at times. So, I think we would have to certainly respect their offensive potential, but defensively, I don't think they can slow the Knicks down. Honestly, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't think so too. I like your idea about putting Hart on Asar Thompson, who is, in my eyes, the best on-ball defender in the league, and is tremendous at crashing the boards. Now, when you make a good point about Brunson, and this was also the worry in the first series with Brunson on Dyson Daniels.
Yeah.
The one concern I always had about that was the offensive rebound. Dyson Daniels, another good offensive rebounding wing. You get concerned about that for sure. So how they match up there is going to be interesting against Detroit. I think you're right. You could see a good amount of double big against Cleveland. Don't be shocked if you see some double big against Detroit too. I think they will bust that out from time to time. The Knicks to me have the most depth left of all the teams too, and I think that's a factor here. And they also have guys off the bench that are playing with confidence, and I think that's a huge factor right now. So yeah, maybe you can get Brunson's on Duncan Robinson if he's back and starting. I think you feel fine with that. Duncan Robinson might make him work a little bit, and you might be worried about that, chasing him off some screens and things of that nature. But yeah, I'd be fine with that matchup. I think Asar Thompson. Now, look, defensively, when the Knicks are defending, you want to make him shoot. If he's going to shoot, fine. God, he hits the shot, tip your hat, God bless, and keep him moving. But you got to keep him off the glass. And that team is very athletic, and they know who they are. They don't shoot too many threes because they know they're not a good three-point shooting team, but they're going to try to outwork you, get on the glass, and so Knicks have to be cognizant of that for sure.
CP of Fanchise, Dexter Henry in the building. KFTV NBA report simulcast. We got the Cavaliers and the Pistons tonight at 7 o'clock, and then you will have the Wolves and the Spurs at 9:30. So we'll see what happens on both games and see, hey, could the Spurs advance and will Cleveland advance? We'll see if we can wrap this up and get to the conference final stage of the game. Now, as we're getting closer to June, time is flying, man. You already know the Giannis rumors are flying again. Here we go again. We got a nice little break from it for a couple of months. Yeah. Because it was like once a month. It was like, well, Giannis doesn't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. So now the Bucks are pretty much confirming that it's a wrap. They're going to look to trade him. Where do you think he goes? Best team for Giannis?
I've thought about this, man. It should be Houston.
Okay.
But because, CP, I say this because they've got the assets. Here's the thing, though, for me. If you're Houston, you're probably going to give away a lot of your youth. What are you doing with Kevin Durant? Now your two best players. You know, you're going to have to probably give up Amen Thompson.
Yeah, or Sengun. It's tricky.
This is the problem. This is the problem with talking about this. It really comes down to, well, how do teams feel about Giannis and what are they willing to give up? And when I ask how teams feel, people are going to say, well, it's former MVP, multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year, it's a champion, all this Finals MVP, all this stuff. But he's had the injury. His body's been breaking down. I've always had concerns about Giannis's game and how it would age.
Yeah.
And then you're putting him, if you're keeping Durant, with another superstar. Now, I'm also saying this in the world of, I don't know if the Rockets might want to move on from Durant with everything that happened around the team last year. Allegedly, with the burner accounts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there was some reporting coming out from The Athletic that was more of an issue in the locker room than maybe people thought. But they feel like they're a good partner for him. I mean, listen, San Antonio could be a partner for him, but I don't know if that'll happen. I don't think there's that many good partners for Giannis. I mean, listen, the Knicks are going to be there because depending on what happens with the Knicks, do they get to the finals? Do they win the whole thing? I think their name will come up. Miami's always going to be in there. I kind of low-key think while Houston feels like it's the most plausible because of their assets, Miami might be the best fit for Giannis to go where they need someone like him. I don't think they have enough assets to get him to satisfy Milwaukee.
Yeah.
But it feels like culturally and what he wants and he could fit, I could see that working there. I don't know. I don't know if there's any other teams that legitimately can get into this with Giannis that he also wants to go there. That's the other thing, too.
He's got to want to sign. He's got to want to sign, right? And this was according to Bobby Marks. Now, Bobby Marks had an article for ESPN about some destinations, what they could offer. So Miami could trade the 13th pick starting the night of the draft with first rounders in 31 and 33. They can also do swaps, 29 and 33. So we're talking about 3 first rounders plus some swaps. And then you're probably talking about you got to throw in Hero. You know, Hero's at $33 million. You got to get to like 50 something, right? So you got to throw in Hero. You're not trying to trade Bam, right? Wiggins is 30. That'd be a little bit too much. So, I mean, they might be able to scrap something together if he wants to stay there.
Norman Powell?
Well, according to Marks, they would be trying to re-sign Norman Powell, but it would be kind of tricky for them to avoid the second apron and do that at the same time.
I'm sure. I know you're going to read some more, CP, but that's the problem with the Giannis trade. It's hard for a team that's either trying to avoid the second apron, bring in his big salary, and have enough outgoing salary while also satisfying the Bucks to give them the requisite assets that they want in draft picks. And how many picks is it going to take to satisfy the Bucks? You know, because if you trade those picks, are you thinking? Are you more inclined to want these picks that are 5 years down the road, like the 31, the 33, is that attractive to you? Because that's when you think Miami won't be good.
Yeah.
But does that accelerate your process of actually rebuilding? That's the interesting thing there. But Miami, I could see being a good fit. Do you think he fits well with Bam though? That feels a little clunky, right?
Feels a little clunky. It feels a little clunky.
If Bam was a better shooter as a big, I'd probably like it better. Now they're both great defensively.
Yeah, capable shooter, but good shooter. I wouldn't put Bam in like a floor spacing big type of situation.
Okay, so Miami was. I didn't even see Bobby Marks' article, but Miami is one there too. Who else did he have?
He's got. I think the Warriors would be intriguing.
Oh, I should have mentioned them.
Yeah,
that's bad on me. I should have mentioned them.
I think the Dubs is to me the most intriguing one. You know, like if he was really set on the Knicks, and I hope the Knicks want nothing to do with him. I want nothing to do with him. Maybe the Dubs. You know, it was Curry's kind of swan song. You got Jimmy Butler coming back. You get Draymond up out of there. You upgrade with Giannis. You still got Porzingis. Now they would have. Let's go to Marks' article here. Yeah, they would have. They have the 11th pick this year, and then they have 28, 2030, which is top 20 protected, and 32. Then they would also have swaps in the next 7 years.
Golden State seems like the best trade partner because if you're banking as them, if you're Milwaukee, you're like, okay, 28, you can get this year's pick, you get 28, you said 30 and 32.
Yeah.
You can swap. You have some swaps in there. Maybe you get, because you're thinking past 28, how good is that Golden State team?
That's right. That's right.
Immediately, you could maybe get some of the return on this. It's good for Steph. He gets another good defensive player. I'd be curious as what Golden State would give up. You said Draymond.
They would still have to give up a lot of salary, though. That's the thing, because Curry, Butler, and Draymond constitute 79% of the payroll. Remember, you got to get to like 50-something million. So you're talking
Draymond,
about like
Porzingis gets it done.
You're talking about where's Porzingis at? Porzingis is a free agent.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
That's
Porzingis is a free agent. So you're talking
talks about him extending Atlanta. He did it. So
you're talking about Jimmy at 56, Draymond's 27, Moody 12. Out. You're pretty much going to have to give up like damn near the entire team. So that's the only thing with Golden State where it's like, what are you left with after you trade for him? And that's it with a lot of teams. It's a big salary. You know, in this second apron era, it's not
Golden
easy.
State's going to be incentivized to do it because they want to try to get the best they can out of Steph's last years.
Yeah.
Now, does that put him in title contention? I don't think so.
No. It puts him old and injury prone.
Yeah, and it's going to be really hard to fill out the rest of that roster, right? Like, that's the other thing,
in
too.
In the West.
Right?
Are you beating OKC? You know, young whippersnappers, not even close.
San Antonio.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people who are like, why are we talking about this at this time? But, we're doing this for a national discussion as well, too. But and to your point about the Knicks, I think there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction to what you just said. And it's like, you said you want nothing to do with him. And I'm in agreement with you because of my concerns about the way Giannis's game is going to age. Not that I don't think he's a dope player and still something, but he's been injured a lot recently. He's 32. I don't, if you're the Knicks, I'm not sure that's what you need. And he's going to gut a lot of your depth. And as you're seeing in the playoffs, in the way Mike Brown is coached, in the way Mark Daigneault is coached, we saw Rick Carlisle last year, you have to use the depth that you have. The days of playing 7-8 in the playoff, those days are over with.
Yeah.
You got to be 9-10 deep. You got to be able to be flexible. And so when you're so top-heavy in your roster, I don't think that works. So, but you know what? Yeah, Golden State, because of their picks and the flexibility they have, they will gut the roster. But I think they're probably most them than maybe Houston. I'll probably put them over Houston now. Golden State than Houston.
Well, 100%. Now, on this next topic, Adam Silver met with the media this week to roll out the iteration of their anti-tanking proposal, the 3-2-1 proposal. And in this proposal, they would expand the lottery from 14 teams to 16 teams. And essentially, the worst 3 teams would not have the best odds at getting the top pick. They would actually be moved up. And basically, they would have those teams in a relegation zone. Okay? So, I'm just going through it right now. Teams with the bottom 3 record, the relegation area, would have only 2 lottery balls, but have a floor of the 12th pick. Rest of the 13 lottery teams could fall as far as the 16th pick. Number 9 and number 10 play-in seeds in each conference receive 2 lottery balls each, and the losers of the 7-8 play-in receive 1 lottery ball each. right? And then in addition, no team would be able to win the top pick in consecutive years or be able to win 3 consecutive top 5 picks. And it says teams also would not be able to protect picks in slots 12 to 15 slots going forward. In picks 12 to 15 slots going forward. Your thoughts?
It's one of the better things I've heard in terms of tanking reform. This is one of the better ones. I'm always a fan. Listen, I wish there was relegation in American sports. I'm a big English Premier League soccer fan. I wish there was relegation in American sports, but there's not. Now, here's my thing. I like this. People are always going to try to find a way. As long as as you have a lottery, people are going to try to find ways to manipulate the odds and get what they have to do. But this strips away a good amount of it. Because honestly, where I stand on all of this, if you truly want to eliminate tanking, if this is what you truly want to get out the game, you have to get rid of the draft. Period. I'm a big abolish the draft guy. There's no need for us to do this. People will then say to me, well, Dex, how are you going to do it? How are you going to get talent? You can do it the same way you do in college. You can have a signing day. And yes, so everybody's also going to say, well, Dex, all the players are going to want to go play in New York or LA or Miami. And it's like, no, there's only a finite amount of jobs. There's a finite amount of money. Teams still have to manage the cap and their space. So you're going to actually see, if you don't have a draft, who are the best teams at really identifying talent, developing talent, keeping them, giving out contracts for good value. You're going to see that. And it takes away all of this. Have it an open market. CP, if you want to go get a job someplace and you're coming out of college, you should be able to go choose where you want to go, just like I think any player. Now, you might want to go to a certain company, but that company may not have a spot for you, just like in sports. And I think that's okay. But of everything we've heard with tanking, so you asked me how I feel about this, of everything we've heard with tanking reform, if you're going to keep the draft and the lottery, which the NBA doesn't want to get rid of because it's a nice TV show they could sell, even though I still think they could sell like a signing day.
I think so, yeah.
I think that would work and people would be into it. This is one of the better reforms I've heard because it truly penalizes you for losing. You can't just say, I want to be one of the worst 3 teams in the league and I'm going to get a top pick. Well, no, it takes us out of it. You're now going to have to fight against to not be in that bottom 3 if you want your odds to be better. So again, I know people say it's crazy. I don't think it's as crazy if you really think about it. I think you should abolish the draft in all sports. But since we know that's not going to happen, this is one of the better solutions you could have. What do you think?
I think it's worth a shot. You see people like, it's terrible, it's terrible. Look, I think it's worth a shot. It will incentivize teams. Hey, go out there and try to go get a veteran and try to go make the play-in. And then you get into the draft and maybe you get the number 1 pick. Maybe you get the number 5 pick. And now you've got that veteran with a young team. And maybe now you're getting more and more competitive. It's going to force teams to, up their scouting, right? Put your resources where you don't have it in salary cap. Put your resources into your scouting, into your player development, and things of that nature. I think it's going to be very interesting. Now, it was interesting to see the Wizards who went out there and got Trae Young and Anthony Davis. If you put that in future years where they put this in place, hey, maybe they're in position to get out of the relegation zone. Now they go out and they get the number 1 pick, so they're going to get AJ as well. I think that's interesting. But, look, will it impact those lower market teams or the Utahs of the world? Go out there and make moves, man, to improve your team.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't see how it's going to actually hurt them in any worse way than what it is. Listen, the NBA has sometimes you could say, a real estate problem. Listen, most of the young players, nobody's trying to live in Utah. Nobody wants to live in Milwaukee. You're like, let's just keep it a buck about what it is. But again, there's still, just like my point I was making before, there's still only a certain amount of jobs and a certain amount of opportunities. I don't want to see Utah doing the egregious tanking they were doing this year, right? And we don't want the Nets. The Nets have been tanking for the last 3 seasons, and they dropped to the 6th pick. It hasn't really worked out for them. Now, this is supposed to be a loaded draft, and they can still get a good player at 6 and all this other stuff. But, yeah, the other thing I like about it that you mentioned there, too, is it still puts value on the play-in. You don't have to try to then duck the play-in. You can still get into the play-in and still jump up in the draft and really improve your team if that happens. I like the rules about you can't have the number 1 pick in back-to-back years. Love that. You can't have a top 5 pick. What is it, 3 out of 5 years? Something like that. I like that too because it's really going to move the balance around and have teams we're really going to see who the best front offices are. We really are. If you're you know what? Put your money in player development. Put your money in scouting. Find the diamonds in the rough. That is exactly what works now. The good organizations are doing that now. we like to. I think there's a romanticized idea that the top of the draft is where you are going to get so many of your stars, and it does. Look at the league right now. We just talked about Giannis. Giannis was 15th pick in the draft. Nikola Jokic, who many people consider the best player in the world, was in the second round pick. Jalen Brunson on the Knicks, second round pick.
Yeah.
Right? Sure, you'll have your Cade Cunninghams, you got your Victor Wembanyama, but look at the couple, and you have Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. So you'll tell me about, well, look at the top, the 3 to 4 teams to the left. They have number 1 picks on their team. The Knicks also have a number 1 pick in Karl-Anthony Towns. But Jalen Brunson's their leader and their best player, and he was in the second round. OG Anunoby is a find. We keep talking about the Knicks. The Knicks just last year finding Mohamed Diawara, who looks like a promising prospect.
Yeah.
There's talent everywhere. You really gotta scout, find, and develop that talent. You could go through any of these good rosters. It's not just about the number 1 pick. It's about these other guys that they found and how they've developed them. Jose Alvarado, undrafted, right? Like, you got to do the work. And I think when you have this, you strip this away, it's really going to separate the men from the boys in this. And who's really a good front office or really is not. Now, again, I'd love it if we just got rid of the draft. But I understand that's too radical for some people. Yeah. I don't think it's that radical, but yeah. This is better than some of the other stuff I've heard.
For sure.
You also, CP, I think you agree with me on this. You can't keep doing what you're doing.
No.
It ain't working.
No.
You got to change. You got to do something. Something's got to change.
Gonna be very interesting indeed, man. So while we wait on hoops, you have any content planned? What do you got lined up?
Waiting.
Well, we got the Subway Series this weekend, don't we?
Got Subway Series. So on tap, straight out of Flushing, we'll be over the Mets-Yankees Subway Series. Hopefully the Yankees don't come in and inflict some pain on the Mets at Citi Field. We'll see about that. If the Knicks play the Cavs, we will have a series preview tomorrow. We'll be live at some point in the middle of the day. If it's the Pistons, we'll probably do something Sunday evening or Monday morning to get you guys ready for that. So a lot of stuff going on. Excited to see what you guys have going on, CP. I know a lot of watch parties and things of that nature. So yeah, some good stuff. So we'll hopefully be able to announce more news after tonight.
Yes, hopefully.
That's where it'll be.
Hopefully we'll have some more clarity, man. Well, great show as usual, my guy. We'll catch up in person soon. Enjoy the weekend until then. And everybody at home, enjoy your weekend. Let's go Knicks. Let's see who beats each other up tonight and who gets out of it. Cleveland and Detroit, 7 o'clock. You got San Antonio and the Minnesota Timberwolves at 9:30. I think San Antonio will ultimately end it. And we'll get into conference finals play. We out of here, man. Like, share, subscribe. Remember, these shows are available in audio podcast format as well.